Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The judges had decided their punishment long before the trial began. Like Jesus, the Persian-born mystic Abul Mughis al-Hussein bin Mansur al-Hallaj, known to the world as Mansur al-Hallaj, was crucified and his body burnt together with all his books. From Gujarat and Kashmir to Mecca and Medina, al-Hallaj had relentlessly campaigned against the Abbasid Caliphate's harsh oppression of the working poor, preaching the radical idea that the pursuit of kashf or enlightenment could unite the human soul with God. For a while, the scholar Shaneem Bernie Abbas has written, al-Hallaj was defended by Shagab, mother of the Caliph al-Muqtadir. But by 922 CE, all his protectors had been marginalized in court. The word of God belonged, after all, to the state and its servants, not to heretics and wandering mystics. Last week, newspaper headlines around the world documented the brutal lynching of Muhammad Ismail, a tourist from the Pakistani province of Punjab who was tortured and then set on fire by a cheering mob in the idyllic mountain province of Swat. The savage killing is part of a grinding campaign of violence against alleged blasphemers, which is spearheaded by the far-right Tehreek-e-Labbaik-e-Pakistan or TLP. Even as the horror in Swat unfolded, religious fundamentalists were registering an even more significant success, and this one didn't register on the front pages. Karachi's prestigious Sindh Institute of Child Health and Neonatology shut down the country's first human milk bank after the powerful Jami'a Dar-ul-Uloom seminary withdrew theological sanctions for its operation. The decision, doctors say, endangers the lives of preterm babies whose mothers are unable to breastfeed them. The battle over milk banks, part of a bitter debate within Islam, has long pitted modernizers against fundamentalists in many countries. The case of Pakistan is unique though. Nowhere else has the decision to open or close a medical facility been delegated to clerics with no legal or constitutional authority. Fundamentalists have proved willing to sacrifice infants for the cause of building a theocratic dystopia, while the nation state has demonstrated it will do nothing but stand by and watch. Ever since the mid-1980s, when milk banks began to establish themselves as a tool of advanced neonatal care, Islamic clerics had pushed back against the concept. Islamic theology, the doctors Sonia Subodhi and Natasha Sriraman note, mandates the existence of rida, or so-called milk kinship, between the non-biological infant and the woman who breastfeeds them, as well as with her biological children. The Sharia, or religious law, proscribes marriages between so-called milk brothers and milk sisters. Islam recognized the critical importance of breastfeeding, and wet nursing was a well-established practice in the Bedouin communities where the religion first emerged. The Organization of Islamic Countries Bioethics Panel, Drs. Muhammad Ali Al-Bar Hassan Chamshi Pasha wrote, proscribed milk banks in 1985, arguing that it was impossible for them to maintain the sanctity of milk-kin relationships. That hasn't ended the debate though. Some theologians, like Pakistan's Javed Ahmad Hamidi, argued that the milk-kin relationship applies only when children are suckled, not by the giving of milk itself. Iran thus has several milk banks, together with Bangladesh and Kuwait, each operating under somewhat different kinds of religious compliance conditions. In Singapore and the United States, where there are significant Muslim communities, some clerics have given theological approval to existing milk banks. Giving preterm babies pasteurized donor breast milk instead of formula, experts have said, gives significant protection against dangerous conditions like necrotizing enterocolitis. Earlier this year, when the Sindh Institute of Child Health decided to open a United Nations Children Fund aided breast milk facility, it reached out to clerics at the Dar-ul-Uloom, which traces its origin to the feminist seminary at Deoband in India. The seminary responded with a fatwa or opinion giving conditional permission for the breast milk bank. The fatwa stipulates, among other things, that records be maintained of donors so milk kinship relationships can be fully established, and also that milk only be given by Muslim mothers to Muslim children. A record keeping provision that, interestingly, doesn't seem to apply to organ transplants or blood transfusions. The breast milk facility was inaugurated by Dr. Azra Pechuhu, the provincial health minister of Sindh, together with officials from UNICEF and the Pakistan Pediatric Association. For reasons that aren't entirely clear, likely tied to ideological power struggles within the seminary, the Dar-ul-Uloom suddenly changed course last week amid the renewed blasphemy mobilization and the violence in Swat. The institution now declared in a new fatwa that the terms it had laid out, the conditions, were impossible to observe. There was, it argued, no way to ensure the traceability of all donors. There were also wider problems the seminary had developed. Letting poor mothers sell milk might deprive their own babies, the clerics argued, while elite women would shirk their religious obligations to their children by breastfeeding them. The hospital promptly shut down the milk bank. One spokesperson for the institution bitterly told media, "Our society has lost the ability to debate like educated people." The issue has now been referred to the Council of Islamic Ideology, an advisory body founded in 1969 to guide the state on religious issues. The body, political scientist Sarah Holtz has noted, has come over the decades to be dominated by small-town clerics with reactionary views. So nobody's expecting a radical decision. Ever since the Lahore carpenter Ilmuddin murdered the anti-Islam polemicist Mahashay Rajpal in 1927, possibly seeking to expiate guilt over his homoerotic longings as much as any jihadi conviction, documents show, this cowing down has characterized the course of the project of Pakistan itself. Lacking legitimacy, elites sought to recruit the clerics and faith to their cause, with tragic consequences. In the late 1970s, thus, General Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq's military regime backed clerical demands for a theocratic state in return for the clerics declaring that Nizam-e-Mustafa, or the order ordained by Islam, demanded the centralization of power in a despot, very convenient for the general. And following 9/11, General Parvez Musharraf created his own clerical army, backing reactionary elements linked to the Barelvi sect in the hope of outmaneuvering his jihadist opponents. Islam isn't unique in promoting anti-science, we should remember. Mahatma Gandhi resisted life-saving smallpox vaccinations, historian Nandini Oza reminds us, arguing that they involved stem cells harvested from cows' udders. For years, doctors in the West have been compelled to turn to courts to battle parents belonging to the Christian Jehovah's Witness sect who refuse to allow their children to be given blood transfusions. Ethical debates range around all kinds of biomedical issues like circumcision and abortion. The issue with the Karachi milk bank, though, isn't the conflict between medicine and faith. It is whether clerics or the state and its democratic institutions should have the power to judge issues of bioethics. In this case, a degraded, weakened state has surrendered its authority to decide. Late one afternoon in 1948, as military doctor Major Mahmood Ahmad desperately tried to restall his car on Akweta Road, someone in an angry mob of cleric-led anti-Ahmadi protesters noticed he had a neatly trimmed beard. That was enough proof for the mob that Ahmad was an apostate. The doctor's body was found later, one lung pierced through with a knife and his guts carved out of his body. That was the very first blasphemy murder in Pakistan, of a man charged with protecting his nationhood. From Surya Shafi, a lecturer charged with blasphemy for using pictures of mermaids in a college-level English textbook, to High Court Judge Arif Hussain Bhatti, shot 5 times in the stomach for acquitting a blasphemy accused, and Salman Taseer, the governor of Punjab, assassinated by a fanatic. The victims of Pakistan's theocracy have not just been religious minorities, but the upholders of the state itself. Today, the mob in Swat and the jihadists who murder Pakistani soldiers every single day aren't just out to destroy the state. They're also coming for the country's children. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm contributing editor at ThePrint. Thank you for watching this week's Security Code.